Welcome back to FeeFiFoFun's rendition of medieval times feasts that you can put together on March break or at a theme party, birthday party with your kids. Here's what we've got set up as a typical household. You're going to remember that there was no electricity, no refrigeration, and no computers at the table. It probably would have been done by candlelight, and we've got wax candles on the table as well as battery-operated candles, so it depends on how old your kids are and how well they're going to be supervised. So what else have we got on the table? You can see that there's one knife. Mostly in medieval times they did not use knives or forks or even napkins at the table. We do have a knife here to cut up the chicken, and it's always fun to eat with your hands. It's almost like a picnic in some respects. So we're specifically talking about medieval times in Britain, and it's an island, but there were the time period, I mean, you could also talk about Italy and India and all over the world about what was happening at that time period, but for the purposes we're talking about Britain, and as an island they had access to quite a bit of meat, if you can believe it. Not everybody could eat it. If you were a serf, you might be better fed on bread and meat and ales, but if you were aristocracy, you'd have access to a lot more. So they would have pork, they would have beef, maybe lamb, fowl like chicken for sure, and fish. But because there was no stoves, they would be cooking in a huge fire hearth. So everything was roasted. Here we have the chicken, which is, like I said, great because you can use your hands. For fruit, there would be fairly good fruit because it's a longer growing season than we have in Canada that they had in Britain. It'd be more typical of pears, apples, grapes, maybe cherries, plums, and even maybe from traders they would be getting apricots or dried figs that would be on their table as well. Of course, having lamb and goats and cows, they would also have milk and dairy products. And honey was a big staple used in mead. Mead is water, honey, yeast, and that was, along with that beer, actually they drank a lot of beer. Even the kids drank beer. Interesting. I wonder how they ever got any work done. Also with the trade routes, they would have on their table, because the meat wasn't always the best tasting, they would have lots of spices, salt and things like that. And of course bread. And I had this amazing round dark pumpernickel bread, but unfortunately my dogs ate it while I was setting up the table, so I've had to use you know, kind of the Dempster's variety, Country Harvest. Obviously you don't want to give your kids beer, or maybe you do. In any case, there's lots of great root beer, and that's always a lot of fun. So that's what I did, and because I didn't want to put it in glassware, again, everything would have been wood or maybe porcelain or earthenware. So I've just taken some old coffee mugs, and that's what we're using for our mead or our root beer. Along with your feast, you might have some entertainment. You might have a jester or troubadours, which were entertainers. They would be doing poetry or singing ballads, or they would be entertaining you with jokes and all kinds of fun stuff like that. Or maybe you would just have the crackling fire and your family or the other servants, the other peasants, and you would just have the crackling fire and maybe somebody with a flute in the background. Thanks for joining us. FeeFiFoFun, Medieval Times.